today. UFC 325 goes down this Saturday in Sydney, Australia, where in the main event, Alexander Volkanovski, the legend, returns to make a title defense against Diego Lopes in their rematch. It's not a fight that we necessarily needed, but if I get to see Alexander Volkanovski in action and Diego Lopes in action, and there possibly could be a different outcome, I'll take it. And then what about in the co-main event? The co-main event, Benoit Saint Denis steps in the octagon with Dan the Hangman Hooker. This could be a fight that could literally be violence personified. I literally feel like that after someone wins this fight, the light should go out, and just like in pro wrestling, his music should hit, and here comes Justin Gaethje running down the aisle to challenge one of these men. That's what I feel like should happen. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt with the Godfather sweatshirt on and the Ravens hat, and we about ready to do our thing with UFC 325. It goes down this Saturday, earlier start time, at least for me. I believe it's like around 2 p.m. or so. They're in Sydney, Australia. And let's get into it. This card, before I jump off into the main event, this card is a card of bangers. There's a whole lot of fights on here that are probably not necessarily going to go to a decision. Let's just put it that way. But we're only going to focus on the main card, because when you start dipping into some of these prelims, you know, it might be some gentlemen, it might be some fellows that you haven't heard of. And we ain't got time for all that. So let's get off into the main event, the main card, the main event. Alexander Volkanovski steps into the octagon for the second time with Diego Lopes to attempt to once again defend his featherweight championship. Here's the thing with this fight, man. This is a tricky fight, right? And I just watched on the Outlaw Pick show that Dan Hardy does with his wife Veronica. I just watched their breakdown of UFC 325, and I gotta go along with a lot of what Dan Hooker, I'm sorry if I said Dan Hooker, I apologize, I meant Dan Hardy. I apologize. Dan Hooker, Dan Hardy, both of them Dans. Both of them are savage. Nevertheless, the Outlaw Picks podcast, hosted by Dan Hardy and his wife V. Bro, something that Dan Hardy was having trouble with about this main event is he was like, I just don't think that Alexander Volkanovski can go out there and do it a second time and do it as good as he did it the first time. Alright, so now what you've done is you've given Diego Lopes a chance to go back to the drawing board. He's already went out there and beat an extremely popular up-and-coming fighter who just won last week, which is Jean Silva. He goes out there, not only beats him, but he finishes him. He stops him, okay? This is very important, because whatever confidence Diego Lopes was lacking before beating Jean Silva, after taking a loss to Volkanovski, whatever he was lacking there, he now has it back in spades. Because not only did he just beat John Silva, but he finished him. And this is very important to this story. So now you have a Diego Lopes who gets the chance to right his wrongs in a championship fight. He's coming in once again with momentum. He's coming in once again with all of the confidence that he needs. And I feel like now he's been in there, he knows a little bit more of the timing of Volkanovski. He knows a little bit more of the speed of Volkanovski. A little bit more about how that power feels. Because Volkanovski definitely did catch him early, rocked him early. You know what I'm saying? even though he went on to keep fighting. So, I don't know, man, but this could easily be another Matt fan pick where I pick somebody that I'm a fan of, because while I do respect Alexander Volkanovski, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I respect him, but he's not necessarily one of my favorite fighters, right? But I'm willing to acknowledge, it's hard for me to say the best, but pound for pound, one of the best at featherweight, and in my opinion, I think he's the number 2 featherweight of all time. That's only under Jose Aldo, because I was watching Jose when he was in WEC. But nevertheless, man, Alexander Volkanovski is one of them. He's one of them GOATs. But I feel like Diego Lopes has something for him in this fight. And I feel like this gives Diego Lopes the opportunity to change up his strategy, maybe to change his approach, and frankly to not get caught early and get rocked early, which was detrimental to him for the remainder of the fight the first time these two men met. I gotta go along with Diego Lopes. I think Lopes is gonna do it. I think Lopes is gonna go out there and defeat Alexander Volkanovski, which is what is being touted as probably his final fight. I mean, he hasn't said it, but, given the location, given this point in his career, given there's not a ton left to accomplish at all, given that it's going to be a long road for you to try to go up to 155 and challenge for that belt, we got to figure out what's going on between Gaethje and Ilya first, you know what I'm saying? And then Ilya keeps acting like he wants to go up to welterweight. So it's going to be a long road for Volko to come challenge somebody at 155 for the championship. So, man, I got to go along with Diego Lopes. I think he rights the wrongs from the first fight, and he goes out there and he defeats Alexander Volkanovski and becomes the new featherweight champion of the world. And this sets up, I believe he's going to need to win another fight in between now and then, of course, maybe 2 more. But eventually down the road, further down the road, this sets up a rematch between Diego Lopes and Jean Silva. Not yet, though. I believe Jean needs to get 1 to 2 more wins before he tries to challenge Diego, but that definitely sets it up in the future. Please, UFC, do not go the route of instantly giving Pantera, El Pantera, please don't give Yair Rodriguez an instant title shot against Lopes because of the beef they had back in the day. We all get sick and tired of Yair getting these instant title shots all the time. But nevertheless, we back to Volk and Diego. I think Lopes gets the win in this fight. Let's move on to the co-main event. Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint Denis. I ain't gonna hold you. I don't care if it is in Australia. I'm going along with Benoit Saint Denis. The reason why I'm saying that is because I've been off of Dan Hooker for like the last 4 or 5 years of his career, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? I believe he had a moment, but I believe we saw what part or where he sat in the pecking order of the lightweight division. And I think all of that got mixed up and got jumbled up when he went out there and fought Jalen Turner. And I think we soon saw where Jalen Turner fits in the lightweight division. And frankly, we just seem to be seeing him at welterweight, period. You know what I'm saying? I think Dan Hooker had a little bit of fool's gold with that win. And it got everyone to really believe in Dan Hooker was that dude, when the reality of it is, man, he beat Jalen Turner. And then, after that, he goes out there, he defeats Mateusz Gamrot. This was a split decision. Mateusz Gamrot, he's an outstanding fighter. I've always been a huge fan of him. I'm not saying that Dan Hooker didn't win that fight, of course, but Mateusz Gamrot hasn't quite been the same Mateusz from some years back as well. I just don't I just don't feel like Dan Hooker's that dude. I really don't. I think he's a berserker. I think he's a marauder. And he goes out there and he definitely puts on a good fight, an action-packed fight. And yeah, you line these action fighters up with a whole lot of fighters. I'm not saying he's not skilled, but you line them up with a whole lot of fighters, man. 9 times out of 10, they can beat quite a few of these guys. But when these guys come in here, we're not talking about Mateus Gamrot, who has been treading water because the UFC doesn't want to try to boost him in that title conversation at 155. All right? We're not talking about Jalen Turner, who's retired like 2 or 3 times, twice, once, whatever. Man, he already had a foot out the door when he lost to Dan Hooker. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't say it as much, but you could tell it in how he was fighting. And I just don't see it. Man, and I could be completely wrong here, you know, but I gotta go along with Benoit Saint Denis, man. Benoit Saint Denis went out there against Ruffy and made Ruffy look crazy because he never gave Ruffy a chance to get started. He went out there, never gave him a chance to set, never gave him a chance to get started, and got him up out of there. And so I would say when we just saw Arman Tsarukyan pretty much do the same thing to Dan Hooker, he never gave Hooker a chance to settle or to begin his game plan or to begin his offense. He just went in there, did what he needed to do to steamroll him. I think we're going to see the same thing from Benoit Saint Denis. I think he goes out there. I think he beats Dan Hooker. And I don't think it's, you know, I think it'll have maybe, Hooker will have maybe a moment super early. But I think Benoit Saint Denis goes out there, puts that pace on him, doesn't allow him to really start landing those devastating teep kicks of his. And then when he starts getting that range with the teep kicks, then you see Dan Hooker go in with those lethal hands. I don't think Benoit Saint Denis allows any of that. I think he goes out there, gets the win, gets Dan Hooker up out of there, man. That's just, in my opinion, that's what I see. Holla at me. Let's move on. How about Ruffy Fiziev stepping in the octagon with Mauricio Ruffy? Man, this is a tough one. This is a tough one to call, man. But I think we saw a rejuvenated, a new, if you will, Fiziev against Bahamundes. Man, I think Ruffy is that dude. But when you look at the strength of schedule that Fiziev is faced versus Ruffy, I mean, what do you think Fiziev is going to do to King Green? You know what I'm saying? While when you look at what Ruffy did to him, what do you think Fiziev's going to do to him? You know what I'm saying? And when you look at it, would you favor Ruffy against Bahamundes, who Fiziev just did his thing against? I think you look at his strength of schedule. I think you look at who he's faced. I think you look at where he's at in his career. And the fact that he kind of touted a little bit of the wrestling in his last win, a little bit of the grappling in his last win. He's showing you that he's elevating. I'm going to go along with Ruffy Fiziev to go out there and get the win over Mauricio Ruffy. I just think at this stage, Ruffy is a little bit earlier in his career, and I think Fiziev just has a world of skill and levels of skills over Ruffy at this point in time in his career versus where Ruffy is at in his career. I feel bad about it, but I have a feeling this is going to be the second loss, back-to-back loss for Ruffy. I got to go along with Fiziev to go out there and get the win. I think it's going to be a 3-round decision win. I don't think he finishes Ruffy, but I think it's going to be a 3-round decision win for Ruffy Fiziev. So I got Fiziev to go out there and get the win. Next, we got Tai Tuivasa stepping back into the octagon on a 5-fight losing streak against Taliesin Teixeira. Now, I know Taliesin Teixeira went out there and he took an L against Derek Lewis, that was just July of last year. I think that was a little bit, as your boy yawns at the thought of it, I think that was just a little bit too. That's just my yawn at the thought of this fight, honestly. And I'm not saying this ain't going to be an action-packed fight, but there's just not a lot here. Taliesin is such a rookie. He's so early in his UFC career that if Tai Tuivasa beats him, then everybody's going to be like, well, he's just a rookie, and Tai went out there and he got a win, and he's back in the win column and all of this. And it's like, it doesn't do a lot for Tai but give him a feel-good moment and a bigger paycheck. But everyone's going to look at it like he just beat a rookie. If Taliesin wins, it doesn't do a ton for him because Tai's on a 5-fight losing streak. So I just think this is a weird fight. I'm sure for a while it lasts, it'll probably bang. But, man, I don't know, man. I'm going to go along with Taliesin Teixeira to go out there and get the win. I've been burned too many times on thinking Tai Tuivasa was going to make his comeback or make his return. And I'm not saying that he won't go out there and do this in front of his fans. But, man, he's a hard one to pick, bro. I mean, granted, Taliesin did go out there and get stopped by Derek Lewis. But I don't know, man. I just think in some of these fights, bro, I don't know. I feel like Tai might have taken too much damage. I mean, he's a hard one to put away, but I don't know, man. I'm not really a lot feeling this fight, to be real with y'all, because I don't see that there's a ton to gain from either guy. I do think it'll be fun while it lasts, but I'm going to go along with Taliesin Teixeira for the upset. Or at least the upset, the fans there in Australia. And I think he's going to go out there and beat Tai Tuivasa. Finally, the opening fight on the main card, we got Quillen Salkill stepping in the octagon with Jamie Mullarkey. I got Quillen Salkill all day. I think he goes out there, I think he knocks Mullarkey out, straight up. I mean, I know Mullarkey's been trying to, man, whatever, bro. I've been fading Mullarkey for a long time, and I know he recently shocked everybody because he got in the win column not too many fights ago, but, bro, I'm going along with Quillen Salkill to go out there and put his head on the mantle. You know what I'm saying? Put his head on the spike. I think he goes out there. I think he knocks him out in the first round. Quillen Salkill packs dynamite in his hands, and I think he's a lot more accurate with his hands than Mullarkey. I think he knocks him out in the first round. Definitely knocks him out in the second round. So those are my picks for the main card of UFC 225. I got Quillen Salkill to knock out Jamie Mullarkey. I got Taliesin Teixeira to knock out Tai Tuivasa. I got Ruffy and Fiziev to go out there and win a 3-round decision over Mauricio Ruffy. I have Benoit Saint Denis going out there and finishing Dan the Hangman Hooker. And in the main event, I actually have Diego Lopes. I'm not saying he's going to finish Volk, but I have Diego Lopes going out there and defeating Alexander Volkanovski to win the featherweight championship of the world. Now, I might completely eat it on all of these picks, and that's cool. Your boy is fine with that. I can take the L. That's the point of this channel. If you feel that all my picks were trash, if you feel like none of my picks are going to work out good for me, say it. Because the point of this channel is, a matter of fact, it's not just a cool name, which it is. It's not just a cool name, but it's, is it Matt or is it fact? The fact being you. If you feel like Alexander Volkanovski goes out there, beats Diego Lopes again for the second time and beats him easier, say that, man. Throw that up in the comments. Let me know. I don't take offense. I want to know what you people think. You know what I'm saying? If you think it's going to be a different outcome with Dan Hooker and Benoit Saint Denis, man, let me know what you think there. So, is it Matt or is it fact? That's the point of the channel. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. And once again, guys, I do want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.